story to tell. The M1 Abrams has been around for nearly 3 decades and remains the best main battle tank in the world. The M1 Abrams tanks are currently the only main battle tank that the US is using, although there have been many upgrades since its inception. The M1 still has a lot of shortcomings, and of which there are weaknesses that cannot be overcome. The first thing to mention is the weight of the vehicle. M1 Abrams main battle tank has extremely large weight, from 60 to 73 tons, depending on version. With this weight class, M1 Abrams is the main battle tank line with the largest weight in the world today. This is also its most serious weakness. Heavy weight requires certain conditions for the M1 Abrams tank's operation, such as bridges, roads, ferries, or even it cannot function well in soft areas. For example, during the offensive to Iraq, because the country's facilities were not so developed, the US tank forces struggled to advance, even without too many obstacles from the enemy. In areas where there were no bridges or roads to meet the requirements, this tank would have to wait for the road engineer, very time-consuming and vulnerable to attack. In addition, the large weight is accompanied by a very huge size, making this tank more vulnerable to attack. To put it simply, when at the same distance, the M1 Abrams will be better target than Russian tanks, simply because they are bigger, easier to hit. Another fatal weakness that the US can hardly overcome with the M1 Abrams tank. It consumes terrible fuel, which will create a great burden on the logistics force. Although the United States is a master of military logistics, in many cases, the fact that armored vehicles, especially main battle tanks, consume too much fuel will significantly reduce combat effectiveness, affecting strategy. The American M1 Abrams tank has a fuel tank with a capacity of more than 500 gallons, equivalent to about 1,900 liters. However, it could be no exaggeration to say that M1 Abrams uses gasoline like water buffalo by burning nearly 2 gallons of fuel for every a single mile traveled, equivalent to 7.5 liters of fuel for 1.6 kilometers. And yet, according to test reports from the US Army, the M1 Abrams tank will cost up to 10 gallons to start the engine, costing 1 gallon for every 6 minutes of idling. When traveling off-road, the M1 Abrams tank costs up to 1 gallon per minute of maneuver, no matter how far it goes. Such a terrible fuel consumption makes the range of the M1 Abrams quite poor, only about 400 kilometers when traveling on flat roads, and 300 kilometers when traveling cross-country. The M1 Abrams' terrible fuel consumption is due to its use of a turbine engine, allowing the tank's engine to be lighter and smaller even if the power is greater than its diesel engine. For the Russians, the birthplace of the tank's turbine engine, due to the huge cost of production and terrible fuel consumption. Up to now, the new Russian tanks still use conventional diesel engines. My video about fatal weakness of the US M1 Abrams main battle tank ends here. Thank you for watching. If you find this video interesting, please give me your thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to support the channel. Goodbye and see you again in the next videos.